The sun was shining. The flowers were starting to bloom. I could smell fresh cut grass all around me. I could hear positive laughter and chatter from my colleagues who were standing all around me. We were all there for the same reason. But then all of a sudden, the most raucous applause I ever heard in my life erupted, because President Barack Obama walked out of the Oval Office, down the West Wing colonnade, into the Rose Garden, to a podium that was standing right in front of me. And he stood there to make an announcement about something that we all knew was about to happen. That we had achieved our goal of helping 7 million Americans get something that they desperately wanted. And that was health insurance coverage. And I stood there in that moment remembering all of the haters, the detractors, the people who tried to tear down everything that we were trying to do, but they were not successful. We were successful. And I was standing there in that moment in full admiration of the President of the United States and what we accomplished. And I was thinking to myself, Anton, this day feels perfect. It feels so right. But how did things feel so right today after they've been so wrong for so long? Now, when I say wrong, I mean wrong. Like more wrong than leaving Chick-fil-A with a bag of cold waffle fries kind of wrong. It would be wrong to leave Chick-fil-A with some cold fries. Now, I know I'm making light of it because that right moment was wrong for so long. And it was wrong for me and my wife just 10 years before. Because on April 1st, 2004 was a day that I will also never forget. It's a day that I found out that I was going to become a father for the first time, that my wife and I were going to have a baby. And just like any first-time expected parent, we were excited, but also concerned, because we have an awesome responsibility of raising another person in this world. And it was 3 weeks after that we went to her second prenatal visit that we would get some bad news. And we finished up the appointment. The physician says, everything looks great. You now can go and tell your family and friends that you're going to have a baby girl, that we were going to have a daughter. And I was so excited as I walked out of that office. But when I got to the desk to check out, the person behind the desk says, Mr. Gunn, can I see you for a minute? And I said, sure. And I told my wife, go into the car and call your mom. And I went to the desk and she says to me, Mr. Gunn, we tried to run your insurance twice, but they're not paying for the services today, and you actually owe us for the last visit and this visit, and each one of them was $457. Now, at the time, I didn't have $457, and I said, I know I got insurance. I pay the premium every month, so run it again. And she says, I've tried twice. You need to call your insurance company. So I go in the car, we drive home, I go into my office, and I pick up the phone to call my insurance company. I dial the 1-800 number, I press 4, I press 6, I press 9, I press 1, I put in my member number, I press 4, I press 6, I press 9, and then 30 minutes later, somebody answers. And they say to me, Mr. Gunn, you don't have maternity coverage. And I can't say to you what I actually said to her, but I said, I don't believe you. I know what I purchased. She says, you don't have maternity coverage. And I said, well, I want to see my application. I'm coming down there. And I got in my car and I drove 30 minutes to the headquarters of my insurance company. And when I sat there for an hour waiting for somebody to come out to me, I was going through my mind about all of this. How did this get to be to this place that I'm now fighting for health insurance coverage? And she comes out with my folder under her arm, and she sits it on the desk in front of me and opens it up. And she shows me that I made a simple mistake on the application, and I forgot to check the box of maternity in the right column. So I had maternity coverage, but my wife didn't. Now, I know the last time that I checked, I wasn't going to have any babies. So I said to her, you see what I was trying to do? Can't you just make it right? You know what I was trying to do. Can't you just make it right? I'm sorry, sir. That's against our policy. We can't make it right. But it's a simple mistake. And I walked out of there that day without health insurance coverage, and my wife and I would end up spending $17,734.53 to pay for the birth and delivery of my healthy baby girl daughter, Ashley. I didn't have $17,000. So we went into medical debt to have a healthy baby. Now, the unfairness of that situation was heavy on my shoulders. I felt like it was an injustice, that you knew what I was trying to do, but you didn't do anything to make it right. And I felt by myself. And as I was sitting home, a voice popped into my head. And it was Fred Sanford. And he said, you big dummy, how you checked the box in the wrong place? See, I went to school. I did everything I was told to do to have the opportunity to have success. I got health insurance coverage. I didn't walk around without coverage, to leaving my family vulnerable. I did everything right. But I made a mistake. So I go in the house to see my wife standing in the kitchen. And I said, babe, I got some bad news. She says, what? I said, I made a mistake on an application for health insurance coverage. If you get sick, you covered. If you break your ankle, you covered. But your pregnancy is not covered. We're uninsured for the pregnancy. What are we going to do? And my wife turned to me and says, I don't know what you're going to do, but you better figure it out before this baby comes. And so I went into panic mode trying to find a solution. I thought I was by myself. But that's when I would learn that more than 50 million Americans had the same problem that I had. That when they needed health insurance coverage the most, it was not there for them. And during those days, insurance companies could use the fact that you made a simple mistake on the application to deny coverage for services, and they had done it over and over again. Now, maybe you cannot relate to this, and you've always had health insurance coverage your entire life. And this is not a circumstance that you're familiar with, but I bet you one thing. You know what it feels like to experience injustice. You know what it feels like to be treated unfair. And when you experience injustice or get treated unfair, what you want more than anything else is somebody to do something to make it right. You want somebody to try to help you to fix the situation that's broken. And for more than 100 years in this country, the issue of health care was broken for so many, and nobody tried to make it right. And when we think about the context of where you might work, people experience injustice every day in the workplace. I read a study that said American employers lost $233 billion over 5 years because people quit their jobs because of toxic workplace culture. That people were being disrespected, dismissed, discriminated against, and bullied at work, so they just said, I'm going to quit. This injustice happens in every organization, and it happens in our society. But the biggest problem is we don't have enough people who are willing to make it right. Now, why don't we have enough people to make it right? Very simply. Number one, most people are paralyzed when they see injustice, if they see injustice. And when I say paralyzed, they're stuck in what I call the social conscious construct. That is, you have to be aware of injustice first before you can take any action to make it right. But the problem is most people ain't aware of injustice in any given circumstance. So you got a continuum. You got your awareness. The longer you're around, the longer you're in an organization, the more you'll see injustice. So if you got hired yesterday, you won't see the injustice at work. But if you've been there 10, 15, 25 years, you'll see it all. You know where everybody is buried. And so the longer you're around, the more ability you have to take action to make it right. But when I say the social conscious construct, here's what I want you to understand. That 50% of leaders in any organization don't even see the injustice. They're living in oblivion. And you can't fix what's wrong until you know what's wrong. So they don't even see the injustice. They're kind of happy-go-lucky, living their lives and thinking everything is cute and good. But we know it's not good, and that's 50% of leaders. But then you have 35% of people who see problems at work, but they don't do anything about them. They know better, but they don't do better. And why don't they do any better? Well, one, because they have what I call paralysis by analysis. They'll see a problem and think, what can little old me do about a big old problem like that? This is the way most people felt when they see injustice at work. It's not my job. That's HR's job to fix that. Or that's their department. Everybody will make an excuse about why they can't do anything to make it right. That's 35% of leaders. So in two groups, you got 50% who are living in oblivion, that don't know any better and won't do any better, and 35% who are paralyzed by what they see, and so they do nothing. 85%. But then you got the 10%. See, these are the people that are at the top of the food chain. They have the most visibility to every problem in an organization and the greatest power to make it right. But not only do they not do anything, they perpetuate the injustice. Because they actually benefit financially, socially, economically, politically from keeping the injustice the way it is. It's the CEOs of the insurance company that know that millions of people might make a simple mistake, but they stay on top as long as they can keep taking my premium, but don't have to pay out any coverage for services. So there you have it. 95% of people are in the social conscious construct. Now, if you're doing simple math like I'm doing math, you know that it's not 100%. So I want to spend the rest of my time talking about the 5% of people. These are the leaders that always make it right. That they don't sit idly by and wait and make an excuse about why they can't do anything about the injustice that they see. Instead, they do something every day to try to make it right. First thing they do is that they raise their awareness. You got to raise your social consciousness about what you see. The second thing they do is that they find the tools, the resources, and the people to help them to make it right. And the third thing they do is that they take action. Now, I know this sounds like some cryptic speech, but I want you to know some of the greatest leaders that are most admired by all of us in history that we think about and know are the ones who break the social conscious construct. People like Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Nelson Mandela, Mother Teresa. They see injustice where it is, and they do something to make it right. Now, I want to give you an opportunity to understand how you can see injustice better and do something to make it right in every corner in which you exist. The first thing you have to do is you got to get out of your comfort zone. The greatest leaders are the ones who get comfortable being uncomfortable. That means going to places you don't normally go, spending time with people you don't normally spend time with, understanding that the world is different depending on the position that you sit in. You got to get uncomfortable all the time and be comfortable in the discomfort. The second thing you got to do is you got to learn how to ask good questions. Ask people what's wrong. That's the first question. The second question is, what can I do to help? And then the third question is, what can I do to make it right? Ask good questions. And the third thing you should do is to act now. See, leadership is a noun that most people accept. I'm a leader, that's a noun. But those who make it right turn that noun into a verb, that they take action every day, all day, and twice on Sundays. So every last one of us can be in the 5%. But we have to understand the social conscious construct, the 50% living in oblivion, the 35% that is paralyzed by their analysis, and the 10% who are obsessively oppressive for the injustice. And we got to do our part to break it. It starts right now. It starts with each one of us. It starts with you, and it starts with me. Let's all make it right.